It is Tuesday, February 4th, and I am bringing you my 6 favorite events of history. First one, the Dancing Plague. It occurred in 1518 in Strasbourg, which was part of the Holy Roman Empire. One woman took to dancing in the streets for several days, and by the end of 1 week, 34 people had joined her, and by the end of the month, there were over 400 participants. People died of exhaustion, dehydration, heart attacks, and strokes. The authorities encouraged them to continue dancing as they believed that they would only be cured if they danced night and day, and even hired bands to help it along. This next one I actually learned about just this weekend. It was the drowning of Mrs. Cartwright. This is a little known fact from Mormon history. Thomas Cartwright, her husband, was baptized into the LDS Church without his wife's knowledge, and upon learning of it, she yelled at him quite publicly. Her neighbors, who were not LDS, told her not to speak out against the Mormons quite so vehemently because she might be converted later. And she replied, "I hope to God, if ever I am such a fool, that I'll be drowned in the attempt." A week later, when she was baptized on the 23rd of November, 1843, she drowned while being baptized thanks to the river overflowing its banks and sweeping her downstream. Number 3. Elizabeth Bare-Knuckled Stokes. In the early 18th century, bare-knuckled fighting among the ladies became a very popular sport. Stokes was a mother and a fighter. Her career started off when fighting Hannah Highfield. The terms were that each fighter would hold half a crown in each fist, and the first to drop it would win. After 20 minutes, Stokes won, and her career took off. After marrying her husband, James Stokes, they would often fight in teams against other people, and occasionally Elizabeth Stokes faced off against men and beat them every single time. Number 4. Franz Ferdinand's assassination. The first guy, who was armed with a bomb, failed to act. The second guy, armed with a pistol and a bomb, failed to act. The third member of the Black Hand threw a bomb, but it bounced off the Archduke's car and detonated underneath the car behind him, injuring 20 people. This guy swallowed a cyanide pill, tried to drown himself, but the pill only made him vomit, and the river he threw himself in was only 13 centimeters deep. He was retrieved, beaten, and then taken into custody. The Archduke was shot later that day outside a food shop at point-blank range, which started a world war. In Ever After, there's a moment when Danielle and Henry are captured by the gypsies, and she says to the leader of the gypsies, "Can I have whatever I can carry?" And he says, "Yes, you can." And she says, "Can I have your word on that?" And he says, "Yes." And so she takes Henry, throws him over her shoulder, and walks out, and he just starts laughing. This was actually based on a true story. In medieval Germany, King Conrad III defeated the Duke of Welf in the year of 1140. The wives of the castle negotiated a surrender which let them leave with whatever they could carry on their shoulders, and the king allowed them that. Leaving everything else, each woman took her own husband on her shoulders and carried him out. When the king's people saw what was happening, many of them said that that was not what had been meant and wanted to put a stop to it. But the king laughed and accepted the woman's clever trick. A king, he said, should always stand by his word. And now for the crowning achievement, my favorite one. In the early 19th century, Napoleon was in charge of France and Alexander was in charge of Russia. They were working to form an alliance together, so they signed a treaty together, and from this, art came forth of the two in a romantic relationship. And in fact, Napoleon wrote to his wife saying, "If Alexander were a woman, I would make him my mistress." There you have it, my friends. Those are my 6 favorite facts of history.